PoliticsJoe went down to Trafalgar Square on May the 1st, International Day of Workers, to ask workers if Labour care about them, do they represent them, and the rise of the right. So let's get straight into the video.
That's my party. It's called the Communist Party of Great Britain.
Our first enemy is whoever is in government right now. It is Labour.
The trade unions are part of the Labour movement, and the Labour Party for many years has been wedded to this neoliberal agenda. And like a tree pulling up its roots, it's destroyed working class communities.
So people are hopeful that reform will do something different. And they're playing the anti-immigrant card is everyone's card. But it's not black workers or brown workers, it's the rich who have made us poor.
Why is it important to be here for International Workers' Day in 2025?
Well, it's always important. I'm part of a movement that's been around for a very long time. We've never been more needed now. What we've got is a situation where people's living standards have fallen to the point that inequality in Britain is at the same level it was when Marie Antoinette was knocking about in France. And we've had 40 years of neoliberalism. That's left us with all of our national assets sold off, all of our industry offshore, and what we've got left has been outsourced. And so working class communities across Britain, people haven't just lost their jobs, but they've lost their trade union and labour movement. And the reason that's important is because we were the people that built community. We had not just defensive workers in the job, but all of the athletic groups, the social clubs, the charitable stuff that went with it. We brought people together. And what we see now is people in those areas being persuaded to a different type of politics. So if we want to address division in society and we want to have a more equal society, we've got to have this government bring back sectoral collective bargaining and put the trade unions back where they belong. And we've got to have a strategic role for the state to invest in infrastructure, manufacturing and public services to give people the quality lives and quality jobs that they need.
Can you tell us?
I mean, that is what needs to happen, but is that going to happen under Labour? Very unlikely. Very unlikely with what happened with Corbyn. And I just don't think people are aware of how unequal the UK is. Like 400 families have the wealth of half of the population. The disparity is increasing. The wealthy have doubled their wealth since COVID 2020. That is the problem. All roads lead to, and I always talk about it, but income inequality. It's the biggest blight the UK faces. Obviously, figures like Gary Stevenson are doing amazing work, tax wealth, not work. But we don't hear these voices. We don't hear the voices of the left. And obviously, this isn't going to be broadcast on BBC, mainstream media. What working class voices, trade union voices, left voices are heard today? Because this kind of stuff doesn't get clicks. Like, I'd love to talk more, and I will in the future, or I am now, but it just, people don't care. And that's the struggle for the left, is like, we've bought into the culture war when, well, I don't like the term culture war. It's not a culture war. They're just spreading lies and misinformation. I think when you call it the culture war, you cede ground to them. It's like, no, you kind of accept their framing. No, they're just spreading lies and misinformation like they always have for hundreds of years since the advent of the printing press. They just lie. And again, do we call out the lies or not? I think we can do both. I think we can talk about class consciousness, the working class, and call out the lies of the billionaires, because they are interlinked.
Tell us about your shirt.
Yes, I think today is National Workers' Day, the biggest unity of the people, working people, which is, I think, the most of the people. Yeah. Against capitalism. Why? Because why the majority of the people, they should work hard, and all themselves, they build the house, they build the school, the road, everything, and this. But all the profit goes to the few people. It is biggest contradiction. Doesn't work.
I'm with a party. That's
Doesn't.
my party. It's
Just
called the
doesn't.
Communist Party of Great Britain, Marxist-Leninist. It's important for us because today is International Workers' Day. That in the beginning was a day in which we set out to win for workers that 8-hour day. So that the idea is workers work for 8 hours, have recreation for 8 hours, and sleep for 8 hours. It's not an unreasonable demand. And it kind of fits with everyone's life expectations. But if you look at today, we've got 20% of the population in Britain who are economically inactive, maybe a quarter. So they're basically unemployed. Then people who are working, millions of people on 0-hour contracts. So they have to be available long hours to get few hours of work and live in poverty. We've got large numbers of people who work 2 jobs or are in poverty despite working, or many members of their family work and still the family don't live. So the reality is the conditions of the working people are being pushed down. We're seeing that with inflation. So I won't go into the causes, but clearly our wages have decreased in value. Even if you're getting more in terms of monetary value, a bottle of olive oil costs 12, 13, 14, 15 pounds. You can't live. So workers have to re-engage in the struggle and say, I can't survive on minimum wage. Even under capitalism, which is a system of our wage slavery, we think, we have to have enough to live, eat, reproduce, have decent lives. And that's the struggle we're talking about.
Can you tell us about the connection between the Palestinian
And people know this, though. You talk to your average person on the street, even a reform voter will know this. They hate corporations. They know they're pretty much a wage slave. But a lot of people reside to that fact. It's like a reflexive impotence. It's like, what can I do? Like, we don't have voices. The average like, when do we talk about workers? It's always immigration, it's always trans, the culture war stuff. We don't talk about workers. Like, who works? Most people work. Most people are not capitalists. Most people, even if they own a business, and they technically are capitalist, they're self-employed, they're still being screwed over in some way. Inflation, just low wages, even like people, again, the self-employed economy has been raising over the last few years. People are still struggling with that because you don't have holidays, you don't have the rights necessarily, if you're employed by a company. So people are getting really upset and they know everything's wrong. But the answer isn't Mark Carney. The answer isn't Keir Starmer. We need a whole paradigm shift. And I think it's coming, but it's a slow process. These processes are slow. But people, inevitably, we're going to have to go to the left. Liberalism is dead. The far right don't have the answers. So who else? It's socialism. It's a form of socialism. It's a form of redistribution, wealth tax, investment in the infrastructure. If it's a Keynesian model, I think that's more realistic. But we have to push Labour to the left. That's the only thing that's really going to happen because Greens are great. I like Greens. I've voted Greens over the last 15 years, since 2010. So, yeah, 15 years. But they're not spicy enough. They need to get more spicy. They're too nice. And we don't live in an era of nice politics, unfortunately.
cause and International Workers' Day?
It's the people, including the labor movement, the workers' movement. And I came here to say thank you for the largest and the longest solidarity movement in the history of the UK for Palestine. So as a Palestinian ambassador, I know all these people have taken part over a long period in voicing their voices and saying, here we are, in demanding ceasefire, and wanting this atrocities to stop, in demanding the application of international law, in showing their humanity. And yes, indeed, I want to be here and I want to say thank you. The British people have shown to the world that they care about international issues, they care about our universal values, and London has become the epicenter of global solidarity with Palestine. So I could not be more proud and more touched and more grateful than today.
This Labour government is bringing in the Employment Rights Bill. Does that go far enough, and do they represent workers?
The Employment Rights Bill is an important step forward, but it doesn't go far enough. We could have another P&O next week under the Employment Rights Bill. And as I've said, they were elected on the basis of bringing back sectoral collective bargaining. That's badly needed. Look, the trade unions are part of the Labour movement, and the Labour Party for many years has been wedded to this neoliberal agenda. And like a tree pulling up its roots, it's destroyed working class communities and destroyed the trade union movement. We've got to bring that back if we're going to rebalance power in the society, and we're going to have more unity. Because right now the country feels extremely divided. And how do you bring it back? You bring us back. Put us back where we belong, and we'll sort it out.
Do you think that the current Labour government supports working people?
I don't think so. In some cases, little bit, little, very tiny, maybe better than conservative. But I think at the end, they supporting the whole system of, I explained, the capitalist system. They don't have the courage to go and say, okay, we should publicize. I mean, uh, come on, make all the people who build and make something that should belong to everybody.
Do you think that the Labour government represents working people?
Absolutely not. The Labour Party has the same interests as the Tories, right? It's the British ruling class's interests. They're here to protect profits, not protect people. I mean, a great example is how they fund a bigger defense budget. It's by cutting welfare, right? How is this in the interest of people? Was there a democratic, decision-making process for this? I don't think so. And you see, actually, the biggest takeaway we could have from the general election is that people didn't vote for Labour. People didn't vote at all, actually. So, we've got to organize something beyond Labour. They've always shown their true colors. We can't pretend like there's still some hope for them. We know that the only people who are going to make a change in this country is workers.
Starmer offers us
Yeah.
policy at home.
Yeah, Starmer is doomed. He's too weak. He's not charismatic. He just flip flops so much. Like, this man, he is so spineless. He just has no integrity, and we need someone who has actually consistent values, who will actually kind of mix things up. That's what people want. That's what Donald Trump was, a symptom of the system's not working. They want something different. That's what reform is. They obviously can't deliver by any measure. And maybe they do come with some deal with conservatives, because Farage has been saying for a while, no, I'm not going to. And I've been saying, I can see him doing it. He's a pragmatist. I can see them doing a deal with the conservatives and joining forces. And next election, you're going to see a deal. Reform are going to combine with the Tory party, and you're going to see potentially what we're seeing in America: cut to welfare, increased military spending, censorship of trans rights, CRT. And will people wake up at that? What point will people wake up? I think that's going to happen in some way, because Labour ain't winning next time. There's no chance. They're done. They're already dead. So who's going to fill that vacuum? At the moment, no one, apart from Reform Tory alliance.
Taking away pensioners' rights, crushing benefits, and at the same time raising money to bid for militarism and driving towards war with Russia. So to us, they're the same as the Tories. So for that reason, we say Labour doesn't represent working people.
Do you think that working people are turning towards reform?
No, I don't think so. I think that, obviously the far
They
right
are.
is a big issue in a lot of countries, but in this country, what we're seeing is our first enemy is whoever is in government right now. I mean, it is Labour. Like, we have to be clear. When we're focusing on the far right, that means we're not calling out those who right now have the option to end British support for Zionism, who right now have the option to give everyone available and affordable healthcare, to put actual means, right, in our public services. They could do that right now if they wanted to, and they're not doing it. So the focus on the far right for me is a distraction on who is actually in power right now, who's in control of the police, of the courts, of the justice.
I think we can do both. I think we can call out Farage and his lies and his demagoguery and how his links to Trump, like, that's what he wants. His tax policies are like Liz Truss's. He will crash the economy. He wants to cut public spending. He wants to privatize the NHS. He doesn't care about working people. He doesn't care about working rights. He will consolidate wealth and power for the wealthy. He's part of the wealthy boys club. We know that about Nigel Farage. And he's been clever how he spins his demagoguery to seem like, oh, he's a working guy. And it's almost like we need Farage to be in power for him to be exposed and go, look, we told you so. Look at what happens. But I think Trump, we've still got 3 years left. His legacy will deeply impact on Farage, but it's a question of how bad does Trump, how does he spin it, how bad does it get? Because there is a potential that, again, you see to have the alliance with the Tories and the Conservatives. But that depends on how bad Trump does. And already his polls are crashing already. So a lot's going to happen. Like, it's so unpredictable. That's the thing. We can't even, there's no point making predictions because so much is going to happen in the next few years. But what is certain is that Labour ain't working, ironically.
Justice system, the immigration system, right? Who's deporting people? It's not reform. It's actually labor.
So people are hopeful.
Yeah, there's a great book, How Migration Really Works. And he breaks down 22 myths or misconceptions about immigration. And actually, it seems like both left and right, their policies on immigration are quite similar. So the right will be more hard on immigration in terms of their rhetoric. And they'll be like, we're going to deport, we're going to close the borders, we're going to be strong in immigration. But actually, and the left are more kind of like, oh, immigration's good, celebrate immigration. But on aggregate, in the West, they're similar. So as far as I'm concerned, on immigration, are reform going to be any different to Labour or the Tories? Probably not, because there's limitations on what they can do. Yes, they'll talk a big game, and they'll virtue signal towards deportations, but Labour's already done deportations. Obama famously did 3 million deportations under his administration. So, yeah, that's how it is. Labour are just doing the same as the Tories on immigration. In some ways, they're worse because they don't really defend immigrants. Because that's why we've seen a drop in support of immigrants in America. It's because the Democrats, the same with democracy, you've got to actually defend these things. They are kind of taken for granted in a way. You've actually got to be like, actually, these are good. Look at the benefits. Defend them. Defend these things. But Labour are too cowardly to do that because they've bought into the populist, they know it can get votes and they're trying to appease reform. But it ain't working because reform hate them. They're not going to vote for them because they do some anti-immigration stuff. It's quite a depressing situation, really.
That reform will do something different. And they're playing the anti-immigrant card is everyone's card. But it's not black workers or brown workers or red workers or yellow workers or green workers or pink workers. It's a system. It's the rich who have made us poor. And while they stay very rich and they don't pledge to take the wealth from the rich, we're going to remain very poor. So it's going to be a hard lesson. I think, they'll have a part to play in British politics. They're allowed in because they don't threaten the wealthy. So the wealthy will keep their wealth, will keep getting poorer. And until people realize we've got to do something about that, I'm afraid not much is going to change.
True. And we live in a very divisive time, and it's unavoidable in some way just how unequal we are. And a lot of it comes from inequality. You've got people at the bottom really struggling and people at the top doing really well. We need to redirect. Carney did that in a way. I don't really like him. He's as liberal, neoliberals go. He's competent at least. But he used positive anger against Donald Trump. He riled up the nation and said, we're going to fight back. And I think that's a positive way to fight against someone who's objectively bad. And that's what we need to do now. We need to bring everyone together, workers, reform, left, right, and go, who is the real enemy here? It's neoliberalism. It's the billionaire class. It's the Bezoses. It's Zuckerberg, who are pitting us up against each other. They don't care about immigration. They don't care about you. And we, the majority, have the power. to overthrow the system, to make a fairer system, to have true democracy, to own what we produce. And it's coming. It's coming. Maybe it takes 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. It's a long term project, it's a life project. But history has a tendency to swing back and forth. The last 400 years has been a time of revolution where we've seen backlash against progressive movements. We're in a backlash moment now, but it will swing back and we can go, right, let's have a serious discussion about where we go, what the future is, and how we come together and fight the real people who are the enemies, not immigrants, not trans people. So if you want to help me in that, in my modest way I do it, very irrelevant in a way, but hit the like button and I'll see you next time.